really simple. What advice would you have to give people, about trying to make it in the independent scene and also trying to excel and transcend that to get somewhere else?
I'm not honestly the best person to ask advice from because I'm an exception to the rule. I think everybody always says you gotta work out, you gotta get in shape, you gotta tan, you gotta eat good, and that's true. I do none of those things really, and I managed to make it as far as I have now. And I think, honestly, as far as independent wrestling goes, I guess the most prestigious thing or whatever it means is to win the Ring of Honor title, because it is the top independent promotion in America. But I got this far by just being me. So, but that won't work for everybody, and it doesn't work for most people. I don't know if I got lucky. I like to think that I'm talented enough that's why I got to where I am now with the faults that I have. But also, you could look at it in another way, where I could probably get further in wrestling if I actually apply myself to doing what everybody else does or most other wrestlers do. But I don't. That's another story for another time. But so that's why I'm saying, as far as advice, I can't really give any. But if I'm gonna give advice to anybody about anything, I'll give the same advice I got from Steve Austin. I met him in an airport once, and I asked him, "What advice can you give to not necessarily an independent wrestler, but just any wrestler trying to get as far as they can?" And he told me to just run my mouth, run your mouth, never stop talking, just run your mouth. And I've been doing that since he gave me that advice, and honestly I think that's what sets me apart from the rest. I think that's what helps me overcome the obstacles that I shouldn't have because of the way I look. I think that the fact that I can run my mouth and talk, and I have that aspect of my wrestling, I think that's what helps me overcome obstacles that I normally wouldn't be able to overcome if I was just a wrestler who looked like this.
Well, you bring up an interesting point, because I guess it depends on what your moral philosophy is, but what good is a contract for yourself that is a really ridiculous amount of money if everything is just carbon copies of everything else? And what good is the state as a whole of wrestling if everyone's just a carbon copy of everyone else?
Yeah, a lot of people will say that, but it's still in the end it matters, and there will be the lucky few that will manage to make it to, let's say, WWE, because honestly I could say TNA, but nobody's dreaming of going to TNA. No offense to anybody who wrestles there or the company itself. But nobody dreams of going there. Everybody dreams to go to WWE, and while there are a lucky few that will make it there by not looking exactly like what most of the guys look like, I'd say 95% of their guys look not necessarily the same, but they're in great shape. I find, if anything, for the last few years they've softened up on the 6'6", 240 rule, where Punk and Danielson and even Evan Bourne and guys like that would have probably not really, I'm sure they would have been hired a couple of years ago, but they would have never gotten a second look the way they have now. They're all world champions, and Evan Bourne was doing real good before he got hurt, and there's Sin Cara and all these other wrestlers that normally you wouldn't think would achieve that kind of, but they're still in really good shape. You don't see anybody who's 5'8", 250 and chubby making it there. The guys that are not really, that don't really fit the mold would be guys like Umaga. He was 6'4" and he was fat, but he looked fucking crazy, and I don't know, there's been quite a few of them if you think about it, but they're all still something to see. And so I understand what you mean by carbon copies and stuff like that, but it's good to be an exception, but it's just much harder to make it as an exception than as the norm. So
talk about perhaps because obviously you wrestled long before you made it into Ring of Honor. So talk about very early beginnings and basically, you know, maybe give an example of some outlandish thing that you had to do or something that you had to go through while going on the road and going to different various territories.
I never did anything really crazy, honestly. Like, wrestling will just take you to weird places. Like, right now we're filming this in a kid's... It's like a daycare and nursery. Like, if you look, I'm in a rocking chair. There's little kids' chairs. Independent wrestling will take you some strange places, so I've been to weird... Like, I've wrestled in weird places. But I've never had to do weird things. I mean, I'd say the hardest thing I've had to do as an independent wrestler to, you know, just to get better at what I do was when I went to Japan for 2 months. Now, to some people that might not seem like a lot, but I was never a guy that wanted to go to wrestle in Japan. Like, that wasn't my dream. Some guys dream of that. I never dreamed of that. My dream was to make it in wrestling in America. So when that opportunity came about, I really wanted to go because, oh, you know, it was never my dream, but it's a great, you know, it's a great experience. So I went. But, you know, 2 months is a long time. Some guys might do it like that, and I've had friends that have done it like that. Like Pac from England can stay there for 3 months at a time, no problem. I stayed for 2 months, and after a month, I was literally like ready to blow my brains out. I just wanted to come home, but I couldn't. I signed a contract, and my flight was in a month. So I stayed, and I did it, and while I enjoyed wrestling a lot, everything around wrestling is awful. Like, I was fucking alone in a foreign country that I didn't want to be at, and I miss my family, and some guys can deal with that really well, and some others don't, and, you know, that's also part of what you got to figure out if you ever, like, if these independent guys want to get to WWE, like, you're away from your family a lot, and, like, I left my family this morning, like, 12 hours, 13 hours ago. You know, like, I know my wife's alone with the kid at home, and I'm wondering, is she having hard time with him, or like, we have a dog, it's like having 4 kids because he's insane. Like, I'm like, oh, I hope she's not having a hard time, and when I call her later, she might be in a bad mood, and like, then that's gonna put me in a shitty mood. Those are just things like, and I only come home Sunday, and to some people it might seem like, God, that's nothing, but when it's every weekend like that, it takes a toll. So I'd say, yeah, those are the roughest things in independent wrestling from what I've done so far, is just being away from people that I care about for an extended period of time, and yeah, you know, being in Japan when nobody else speaks English, that's really something. Trying to get somewhere when nobody can help you, but in the end, you know, I don't regret any of the experiences I've had. So it's, I think, something that every independent wrestler should get to experience at least once.
Okay, I'll ask one last question so we can get out of here. This is going to be kind of a...
Okay.
Okay, so you talked about, you know, how, you know, everything around wrestling, but outside of the ring kind of can be kind of horrible, everything that relates to it. What do you think about, I want you to kind of talk about the duality between work and shoot, and how sometimes those lines blur a lot, and even a person who is inside the business sometimes is confused about, you know, what reality truly is.
It's interesting you say that, because my wife tells me that sometimes. She feels like I'm not like, sometimes when I come home, it's weird, she'll say this shit. Like, I'll come home from a show, and then she'll ask me to take garbage out, because she hasn't done it all weekend, because, you know, we live in an apartment building, she has the kids, she has a dog, so there's like 3 garbage bags under the sink that she wants me to take out. And I just got in the house, and I'm tired too, because I traveled, and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to. And she's like, you're not wrestling anymore, you know, you gotta snap back, now you're just a normal guy. There's nobody cheering you on, and just shit like that. So it's funny that you say that. I feel like I understand what you mean. I think a lot of guys lose themselves in wrestling and who they are in the ring, but I think for me, I'm probably one of, like you say, the line between shoot and work and all that stuff. I always thought it was really hard to walk that line, so I decided to kind of just not have one. Like, I really, obviously I do some stuff in the ring if people follow my work that I wouldn't, you know, I'm not going to go up to a stranger in the street if he's cut and bleeding and lick his blood. But I've done that in the ring, which is, to some people, completely insane. But to me, it's just not that insane. So, what does that say about me? I don't know, but I'm just saying that's kind of me. I don't really mind that. I mean, I wouldn't do it to strangers. Obviously, if I did it with somebody in the ring, it's because it was my friend, I knew I could trust them, whatever. But, you know, that's just one of the examples of things I've done that people have looked at and be like, what the fuck, you're so crazy. And to them, it doesn't matter if it was in the ring or not. It's insane, like, in any part of life, in any walk of life. And I understand that, but to me, it's not. Like, I'll see people in the street sometime do really crazy things, and other people, like homeless people in Montreal where I live, for example, you know, they're mentally ill, they do some really crazy shit. Some people will stop in the street and just stare and be completely bewildered. To me, this is nothing, because I've literally, last weekend I saw a wrestler do the same thing when we walked out of the restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, just dumb shit. Like, because wrestlers are weird kind of people, and I think at one point, I guess everybody loses that line between what they are in the ring and what they are not outside. Unless they have a really outlandish character or whatever, you know, that they play in wrestling, and it's obviously doesn't have anything to do with their personal life. But I think everybody blurs the line more now than ever. Like, from what I know of them, I'll give you examples. Like, CM Punk is CM Punk. Daniel Bryan's Bryan Danielson. You know, like, I'm giving those examples because those are just dudes. Like, obviously, Bryan's not going to be abuse women the way he does on TV, but if he was to do it, he'd probably do it the exact same way he's doing it on TV, because it's funny and he's clever, and that's how Bryan is. And Punk's an extremely confident guy, and that's exactly what he portrays on TV, because that's what he is. And, you know, now it's like anything else. Wrestling, the more real it is, the more people enjoy it. The cartoonish, outlandish things have kind of gone out the window, and there's a reason for that. Why, like, just like, you know, what's popular now is reality TV and fucking MMA and all that shit. So it's because people want to see real, I guess, as real as it gets anyway, because everything, I think, is fixed to a degree. But, you know, so yeah, I would say that line's pretty much non-existent now.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, man. Thank you.
Yeah, let's go get something to eat.
I have the exact same camera.